Hey guys, what's happening? So in today's episode, we're going to talk about getting mobile. So what do I mean by getting mobile? Really what I mean is by giving yourself more options. You know, when I first started hunting, I would go to a stand that was made out of 2x4s and plywood. But then I graduated to, lock-on stands, and then eventually I figured, man, I really need to get a climber. That's when I took the first step into getting mobile. Doesn't necessarily mean my success rate went up a whole lot, but it did increase.
By the way, for me, success is determined by the goals that I set in place and how well I do on attaining those goals. Has nothing to do with comparing to any other hunter. Just keep that in mind as you set goals for this year.
It just gave me an opportunity where I felt more confident. I could go to where the deer were. The deer were less likely to pattern me, just because before I was going to the same stand over and over again. But then I found that there were limitations to the climber. Now, I'm not knocking climbers, and I'm not promoting any products or anything here on this. I'm not sponsored for sure. But the limitations with the climber, number one for me, was the weight. Now, this is an older climber. It's probably about 25 pounds. Bulky, carrying it in. Trees were limited. You could only climb a straight tree that had no branches. So last year, I used the climber a lot. I had one shot opportunity and one kill on a doe. And from watching other videos that I'll be sharing in here, I came across this idea of saddle hunting. So at the beginning of the year, this past summer, I invested the money into a saddle. And again, this is just what I got. This bad boy right here. It's the Mantis Saddle from Tethrd. This is what I wear. These are my climbing. These two things carry my climbing steps from Silent Approach. And this right here weighs 5.8 pounds with the steps inside of it. And then I have a climbing rope. This is my lineman's rope right here, and my tethered rope right here. So you're always connected to the tree. And that weighs about 2.6 pounds. And then I also got this, which is the Predator platform. The Predator platform weighs about 3.4 pounds. So altogether, this setup is less than 12 pounds. So that's a drastic difference from the climber that I used to use. So essentially, on every hunt that I did this year, I would put that on. Now, I had a general idea of where I'd be going. So I'd put on the saddle, grab my bow, my backpack. Of course, I was carrying camera gear, so that made up for the weight that I lost from the climber, but that's just my choice. Not sure if you do that or not. But anyway, I'd walk out in early season on a soybean field. I could see where the majority of the soybeans were getting eaten up. I could see where fresh poop was. As we graduated later into the season, I could see where the fresh scrapes were. I could see where the trails were, the main trails were running. And I was not limited to the area to where I could hunt. I could literally climb in any tree that I wanted to, and this is the most safest system that I've had. I'm always attached to the tree, and it did take a little bit of time to get used to using the saddle, finding the comfort and all that, but I will tell you, I will never go back to a lock-on stand or anything along those lines. The saddle for me is very comfortable. I had long sits, all day sits in it, but there are some drawbacks, and I'll share that with you here in a minute. So here are some of the facts that I experienced this year while using the saddle when hunting. First of all, every kill that I had, and I've had 3 so far, was when I was in the tree for the first time. Now there were some trees where I hunted more than once, and I passed up some does that were well in range. If you look at another video called Full Draw, you can see a buck coming in, and spoiler alert, I missed it. But more than 90% of my hunts resulted in me at least seeing deer. But there were some challenges. I mean, like anything new, it takes a little bit of getting used to. It takes a little bit of learning how to use this climbing system, strapping on the steps, getting comfortable with your gear, trusting your gear, learning how to use the lineman's rope to where it's supporting you more than your legs are supporting you, so you don't get tired. The other drawback for me was the amount of time it took me to get from ground to hunting height. Typically it took about 30 to 40 minutes depending on the tree. And you might be saying, man, that takes forever. Well, you can plan for that time, right? That's what I started doing. If I wanted to be quieted down an hour and a half before first light, I would leave whatever time I needed to leave to be in the tree by that time. I will tell you that I would like to work on being able to speed that process up, so I might look into a different climbing system. The silent approach steps are great. They are quiet, they are silent, but I might be looking at climbing sticks, maybe with an aider, so long as the weight doesn't increase a ton. If the weight increases a little bit, but I'm still able to get up the tree faster, I'll probably look into that. The other part about it is learning the angles of the tree. With this kind of setup, you want to be on the opposite of gravity side. So if the tree's leaning this way a little bit, you want to be on this side of the tree. That's all the way up through climbing. There's when you're fighting and resisting gravity, it makes things a little bit difficult, but that was something that I was able to learn as I continued through the season. The other part about it is sitting in the saddle, knowing where to put your tethered height. And there's tons of videos. I'm going to share some with you right now. There's tons of videos out there that talk about it, and I'm going to be sharing videos about tether saddles. There's other saddles out there. Gives you 360 degrees pretty much shooting. However, it takes practice. I did practice throughout the summer shooting from the saddle, but when the rubber meets the road and you're getting ready to harvest a deer, shooting on a weak side or behind you, it's a little bit challenging. So that's another thing that I'm going to have to learn how to do, is to get more comfortable with weak side shots, or drop shots is what they call it when you're shooting behind you. But for the most part, it's stealthy. You are less predictable to high pressure deer. And I'm hunting in New Jersey, southern New Jersey, and it's a high pressured state in my opinion. The deer walk around looking up. They have pegged certain stand areas where we have had lock-ons for a while. Making the switch to this saddle hunting, it was weird. I got a lot of crazy looks from guys that I know that are hunting, and I was a little skeptical, to be honest with you, because it's so new. But there have been people like John Eberhart that have been doing it since the 70s, and he is very successful. If you don't know who he is, maybe I'll put a link to his video in here as well. It's new, but it opened up so many more opportunities. Most importantly, it increased my confidence every time I walked into the woods. So if you're new to hunting and want to improve your chances, look, unless you're hunting a managed property and stuff like that, I'm talking about at least 80% of the hunters out there that don't have the luxury of hunting a managed property, have the luxury of having food plots and creating your own farm. I'm talking about people that have permission to hunt properties. You can't control what happens on that property as far as building, as far as crops. I'm talking to people that do public hunting. If you want to increase your opportunity, your success rate in seeing deer and harvesting deer, becoming mobile, in my opinion, is a must. Now, some people might have some limitations, and I get that. There's a ton of people that are so successful with carrying lock-ons. They'll have sticks. Maybe they'll pack 4 sticks on their back with a lock-on stand. Very successful with that. Dan Infault is a big name with that. Cody DeQuisto is very successful with that. So there's a number of people out there that are harvesting big deer over and over again on a consistent basis. My idea of success for me this year was not necessarily big deer. My idea of success this year was to increase my odds of harvesting deer. And in the last 3 years, I've gotten 1. Until this year, I've gotten 3. So I did that. I needed to get a buck under my belt, and I did that. So the main reason I was able to do that was because I was able to be mobile. So all in all, I just want to encourage you, whether you're a new hunter, you're a hunter that has stepped away from hunting for a while and is now getting back into it, this will give you a new fire, new desire to hunt. And if you're a hunter that's been hunting for years but just hasn't had that success, I encourage you to, yes, it'll be uncomfortable, but I encourage you to at least step out of your comfort zone and to try to get mobile in any way or fashion, whether it's a climber, whether it's a lock-on with sticks on your back, or whether it's a saddle. So until next time, see y'all.